it is by my means of being imputed by the awareness, by way of the power of the awareness. This is how the object really exists. So in order to really make that clear here, this is how we express this, how we say the object does exist. However, to us this is not necessarily clear. Why? Because we're so familiar with the idea that the object exists from the side of the object, not that it exists from the side of the mind or the power of the mind, but from the side of the object. Here in this case, due to familiarity, we have to use reasoning, we have to investigate the object, analyze the object by way of reasoning, by way of depending on relying on different reasons. And if, having used different reasons, having analyzed the object in that way, there's a sense of discomfort that it just can't be that way, that even though the reason establishes it to be that way, it couldn't be that way. Well, that last kind of discomfort is only because we're so familiar with the opposite. So there's nothing we can do about that except for becoming familiar now with the opposite. But we without thinking, we cannot decide, we cannot come to a decision, we cannot say that the object cannot be established by way of valid cognition on the own side. So therefore we have to apply reasoning here, because without reasoning we cannot do this. And the kind of reasoning we apply here is initially to search for the object. Is there something that can be found from its own side? Does it exist as its parts, as the collection of the parts, or separate from the parts?
Dilo la salvo chare la tati peji tanda peji tini la la tiki ujiri tati mena ya ko shule di chena. Dilo la salvo chare la tahinge la laegi nga se tadi chuksa di nga u nyamsa di kari la nyamgi yu meni sebu ngo tre wale chingya la. Di ngoyi ni chiki jamari suji nyamnyongi suji isem di nga lapsa di da jarsa di kanti chila chargi yu meni. 아니 디 뭐트나 아니 기브리스레 아니 신의 딘디디 아니 요래 요마레 당신이 요래 요마레 뢰샤바레 마레세 아니 계제디 시에 용으로 또 취진 거랑 알레다나 세우지 못해 보다
So, Krishna will now say something to make this clearer to the mind, to become for you to have a clear appearance of this idea here, whether we can actually say that or not, can be seen later on. But for it to become clear, this idea, to make it clear, you need to reflect on what is it when we say I? What is this object? When we think I, what is this actual basis here? The basis of what is this actual I that we're looking at, that it is we're saying, we're thinking of? Or what is the actual I that we express when we say I? So once we have clarified what is the actual object, what are we actually pointing at, then we can see, does it exist or not? Then we can see, does it exist intrinsically or not? And then we can see whether it exists through the power of the mind or not.
Tila dizane namjin na taksagi duen takduen tsene nye yo mares dus legre. Chizan ta takduen tsene nye yo mares ye di keche di she yungdu alingel di lamna tigidu. Ani takduen kharre. Ani di tsene nye yo mares ye ki takduen di kharres. Di she yungdu ani chisu kari ina ta ngema ina kimpalen lagi ina ane rangone tubi medo temporary yubi medo ta den se la wa ina nga ta den se la wa ina ta den di ane temporary yubi nga di shani en di se ne menyes de de en temporary menyes ta da cha ro di la wa se la gu res o tin ji ni ta ta ji ni sung yu na me na ka ji di la gu res ta den di nga di sha en di se ne menye la wa ina ane tanda di 오주버기 디오와 단위 될는 넘버 제미자스 단위기 대바라 아니 대권은이의 주비집이 제일 말했어 제조 말했어 디송로 딜러디 아니 분바라바이나 마라바이나 단위 대바 자로로 딜러 대권은이의 주비집이 제나 안티고 말했어 어디 공장 디송거 이내 배제하시는 로라 아니 딱버 증기 마신버 and Tadun says, Yayungwa. And Tadun Koran Ramuna to Bumba Lapsana, Yantabazingi Masimba Laetida, Ramuna to us, the Jenta was a Nila way Yoma, or Tindigi Tadojichi.
So when we search for something and say it cannot be found, what is it that we're searching? What we're searching here for is the object of imputation. The object of imputation here. So what is that object of imputation? So what is it? When we engage into that kind of analysis and decide it cannot be found, what is the object of imputation? So previously, Shifanandrawa from he says it's the truly existent self which we're searching for. So in the case of the flower, first he said like a truly existent flower or a truly existent self, something that actually doesn't exist. So this is what we're searching for and are finally not able to find. And why does Geshe-Vandrala say so? He says so because in the supplement to the Middle Way by Chandrakirti, there's a line which is saying that which exists conventionally is not to be investigated, is not to be searched for, is not to be analyzed. So there's this line saying that which exists conventionally, you're not searching for. So this is the kind of source text that Geshe-Vandrala uses when he gave that statement. But there are other people who say that the object of imputation, the way you search for it, is by way of searching for something that is such that one is not satisfied it existing only by way of being imputed. So that's like it's twice, and then you have it twice here. The object of negation is twice. The object that is searched for, that is the imputed object, which is the object of negation, and then the way you search for it is again you're saying it's the object of negation. You're searching for that. It's like you're searching for the object of imputation by way of searching for its inherent existence. So Geshe-la is saying it twice. You're saying an inherently existing object. You search for it, whether it is intrinsically existent or not. So there's a fault of the repetition here of using the same word, the word of negation, the negating phrase twice. Object of negation here is used twice.
Dinashin, any Panetawater baby, she jabited by Insu, Dinalola. Ko Jagi, and a number Jebani, Rashin Cholwa, Lurjeba, Niki Chiros. That Toto Caresina, and a Jebachi, the Rashin Cholwa is Sidier. Chesan the King, and the Rashin Cholwa, Bubatolo Mares, Pumbi Rashin Cholwa is, or Disunger.
So also when Chandrakirti says in his commentary on Ayurveda 400 verses, he's saying that I'm investigating here, when I'm investigating what I'm looking for, what I'm searching for is an intrinsic essence, an intrinsic nature. So therefore, Geshe-Vandrala uses that as another source for saying that you're not searching for the thought, you're not searching for some existent thought, but you're searching for an intrinsic nature.
Tadiji Duzane, and Tanda Jamguri Mushi, Dior, Sashi Tichingi, Songju Nashaba, Sinti, or Dinang Lola, Dior, Sal Sedi, Karisalvaresena, Medola Sunyer, Saledi, Zaljudi, Medodi Salvares, a Dior. Chesanta Diji Duzane, any game Padenda Volagita, consulti your insa, and Jamguri Mushi condition, Medozes and a Tigrives. And Medogi Rangshin says, Ramuna Jubi Medoce, Madabache, Shaya Medoces and Rajashana, and Tipishana, Tigidues, Yakandi Shudisane, and Jamonimuchi Garisonsana. Medoces and Tigmare, and Ramuna Jubi Medoce, Labores Lane, and it Tilabaina, Ranjubi Chola training of Medues. Tanjua the Ranjuba Yorva, Ranjubi Chola Part Tragi, Kachatamuma Kegi. Ninga Mindues or Dison. Chesanta Raja Shire, than the pigeon of Raja Shire. Sergio Medo de Severes.
So, His Holiness the Dalai Lama in his notes on the Ocean of Reasoning, which is a commentary on the fundamental wisdom. So in his commentary on that, the notes on his commentary on the notes which are a commentary on the Ocean of Reasoning, His Holiness says very clearly that what you're looking for, when you say you search and you want to find something, so what you're searching, what you're looking for is the object itself, not the object of negation. His Holiness uses the word flower. So His Holiness uses the example of the flower. It does not say you're investigating truly as the inherently existing flower, just the flower. So because of Genbandendra's opinion with regard to this, is saying that what you're actually searching for, what you're looking for, is the object of negation, the intrinsically existing flower. Therefore, he approached His Holiness and asked His Holiness about this. Is it actually what you're looking for is the flower, or are you looking for an intrinsically existing flower that exists from its own side? And so His Holiness's response was saying that if you say you look for the flower, it should be actually, if you say you look for an intrinsically existing flower, well, aren't you going in the direction of the Svatantrika Madhyamika school? So you're going into the direction of the Madhyamika Svatantrika school, and you're not going according to the view of the Paramitha. You're actually going into that direction of the lower philosophical system, the Madhyamika Svatantrika. And so this was the answer His Holiness gave, and therefore it was left as saying what you're searching for is the flower itself.
아니 사세 시니 자로 메도라 시니 세디 라싱 주비 메도 제로 지디기 타니비 메도 제로 사세 시 이네 레신닝 뭐 나로라 안디 렌디 자온도 전에 자웨디 코드 슈르 투이 렌 자온도 전에 아니 사세 시 미다와레스 레마 자바체 철당 미다와레스 렌디 자웨 진 디체나 정말 무시 송만나신 다드인디 메도 카라샤 안디 철바레스 바기 지den바게 디초와레 따드엔젠다나 돈이의 제비급에 디초와레 이네 초단 타이마레스.
So therefore, when we say something exists intrinsically or not, when we say we search for something, and we search whether that object exists intrinsically or not. So that searching, there's this kind of searching here, and there's also searching for something from a mundane, ordinary point of view. So to look for an object, is it here, is it there? Right? So according to Genbandendrama, his explanation is that you have a basis, which is a truly existing, inherently existing object, and then you search for that. Whereas the ordinary worldly kind of searching is you have an existent basis and then you search for that. So here the kind of searching, there's no difference from the point of view of the searching. The activity of searching for the object is the same. The basis is different. However, according to Lama Tsongkhapa's eloquent speech, and he will speak about that a little later, we go into more details on that, it is very clear in saying that the basis could be the same, but that the way you investigate, the way you search for the object, it's a different way, a different mode of searching. So the difference is from the point of view of the searching, not from the point of view of the basis.
지금 따따우된디 파기 메도랑의 샤비 온도 단데 딱이지 시바이나 단니에다 다길레기 알랭에라 메도 랍사디 데이나 다 조지 랍사지어라 조지 랍사디 카릴레라기 유메 다 알랭에라 띵냠용이 토네 기지시에 인디 띵모 트여야지 띵모마 트여이나 베나 단이 모마 트여니 띵디 용데 이거라 단다디 차보기 좀 단이 다 베나 단다 띵디시에 요래 아니 조지 바다디 샤펠 페르와 페디체는 파기 도친구 주스르와 다디 조이 투공라 다 돌아 가릴래 그래스 디 티워디 땅으로 아니 로자와기 도스 기제 메버지 도도 친구지를 주고 주로 딜레 가릴래 그래스디 딜레 파봉라 그래스 퐁게 파봉라는 도 친구들 딜레로 파봉라 그래스 아니 제가 아니 저지기 또 챙기면 디파버를 그래서 그 게디 다저서 삼로디 라마테와
So here, when it's about the flower, here when we speak about the flower, well, there's of course also a way where we don't know the verbal convention that is used in a specific case. So we need to kind of be sure we use the same verbal convention. And so an example for that would be at the time when Atisha came to Tibet. he was actually he asked one of the Tibetans who he met, he asked one of the Tibetans pointing at a stone, what is that? But actually, what he was pointing at was a stone. He actually mentioned the word in general. But the person who tried to answer the question, he thought that Atisha meant a rock, so it's a huge stone. So he answered saying this is a rock. And so next time Atisha saw a tiny pebble, so then Atisha was saying, also this is a rock. So there was a confusion in terms of the word.
可是呢，那个翻译他意识到什么？因为那时候真的只是一个大石头，所以他就回答说巨石。那所以阿里甲根据这个石头的名字叫做巨石，所以后来呢，阿里甲根据拿了一个小石头说这是巨石。就是在明言上面，我们并没有完全有彼此之间的一个完整的共识，所以我们需要在明言上面建立共识。
다 다시 해서디 모체기 답시지 그 다는 모체기 메카시 다가 다다자 다디 마싱이니 마차샤 조지 다디 조지로 조지는 다 가릴을 내기 메디 니 세고 하고 가마 다 kinzu이 말아 모체 같이 디 조지레스 레그로 왔다 되게 조지 디나시 디 조지레스 간니디 디에 디 조지 강바레 아니 디 조지레 디 조지 강바레 디 조지레 디 조지기 다 강기 빨래들 조지레 거르베 안 제만에 디 고사네 조지레 레그로 안 디 조지레스 디라나니 디 키드네 와 조지 키드이래 니가요 지금 딱 말을 간지 숨어지지 조지 랍사디 간지 숨어지지 간이 디 조지레
Krishna is now saying, okay, let's pretend I don't know what the table is. I don't know that this object is a table. And I ask you now, show me the table. What is the table? And you point at me. How are you going to show Krishna what the table is? You need to point at something, so you may point at one of the legs. And you're saying this is the table. Well, actually, that's just one of the legs of the table. And then you point at the next leg. And again, this is just a part of the table. And then you point at each of the legs. And again, it's not the table. If you point at the surface, so that is not the table. So how are you going to show Geshe-la? How are you going to point out the table so that Geshe-la knows what the table is?
我以为我拿的是桌子，那如果你讲的是对讲是桌子的话，我拿掉一桌角，我就说我带走桌子。所以请问现在你们要如何对我这个不认识桌子的人介绍这是桌子的？
이 저저기 부지열에 부신중이 간다. 안 저희는 다 바닥이 빈저 총알을 아굴라고 봐. 저저 부인상 말 아굴라고 봐. 지선다 완전 왔다 공생전이야 공생다 코랄로 피지마 주스네로 딘디칼다 나 공생리 어디 띵마주 아구레다 아스타샤셔라. 다 크기 삼례 나로라 아니 미세기 다시 공인지 통인상 다시 공인들아 아구스 쇼라. 现在你们见那故事开始小片片的，放大的但是阿姑。
Krishna is telling a story. He has an older brother, and his older brother has a little boy, his nephew. And the Tibetan tradition, when you have the older brother, the children of the older brother, they call the younger brother Abu, which is another word for uncle. And so when he went home for a vacation, he was introduced to his little nephew who was 5 or 6 years old. And so his uncle and his brother told him, this is your Abu. But the little nephew, the little boy, thought, oh, someone who wears robes, and a real person, we call that Abu. So when there was a group of monks coming to the house, he pointed at them very happily and said, look, there's Abu.
其实当年他年我们这边我的当了，肯定是我自己，就是去学了呢，就是考完来个了，当年我们这样子，俺带多了呢，对了，俺提前我了，提起的他去年我们这呢，肯定是我自己的，当他情况我这我学不了，的就是的打死呢。
If I were to tell, if I don't know what a table is, and you ask me, bring over the table. So I don't know what the table is. How are you going to show me what I should bring with me? Should I just take off one of the legs? I don't know whether I should take off one of the legs or another leg, or I should take off the surface. So how are you going to show me what the table is that I'm supposed to bring to you?
就是去学生，肯定的听我。
So when you say bring the table, what am I supposed to bring?
肯定的就是来。
What is the
你在
table?
讲桌子的时候，你在讲的是什么？
肯定是我自己。
how can you can identify the table?
你要怎么样介绍呢？
我这写着写。
请介绍，请介绍。拿下麦克。
As he before he showed the long before Geshe-la showed the object, the long object, so he pushed the long with the long object he pushed the paper.
No,
So-
the answer. Can you answer what?
Yeah, yeah.
Geshe-la said? Okay.
So same like he did it, he said this is the long object and it survives to push the paper, so I can put this one, cups of a tea, on top of the table and I can tell him that that is a table. So I can bring the table with the cup of tea.
That which becomes the function of a table.
Yeah, because as example he gave earlier, so I can take same answer.
아니 계실라지 그거 춘춘식 쓰느라 아니지 가서 잘라시 주겠다라 다다나 그거 춘춘디디 잘라 비게다기 된지는 봐 나신 하나 쪽세디가 뭐 춘춘식 샤나 뭐 관계 도에기 잘라디 지쪽세래 다지 뭐게 까까 도에기 뭐 지고 내서기 시디
딜라는 또 디샤스디 조지.
So, so Geshe-la is asking, now Geshe-la just put the notepad on top of the table. Now you put a cup on top of the notepad. Is that notepad the table? Because it is that which performs the function of holding the cup.
把便利贴放在地上。
Still
现在
the
这个桌子呢，就有放东西
the paper and the cup is still holding the under below. So I switch No, because the paper and the cup is still on the table.
말을 가지만 단다 가오다다 슈그디 쪽지간라 여 쪽지간라 여가 인바 이 말을
Whatever I put on the top of the table is the table.
쪽지간라 카샤야디 샤사디 쪽지
어디로 와서 제가
Because
딜라는
it's
네.
yeah, all the
디티기도.
it's the function. It's the function. Yeah? That's what he gave example.
이리와. 다 조지 가네드레스 디 조지 셔어디 기지시나. 조지 가와레스. 안디 키라 샤기도 와스. 샤송아스 레로다. 디치강의 샤송아스. 샤세디 조지레 레로. 다 단대가 뭐 처음에 알레 디 조지레 레라.
So Geshe-la is saying, okay, let's take the bigger example, like the bigger table in front of Geshe-la. So you were saying, what if Geshe-la asks you what is the table? If Geshe-la asks you, you were saying it is that on top of which you put the notebook. So Geshe-la's response is that the table? Because on top of that cloth, I put the notebook.
Is he asking that the cloth is the table, or is he asking?
He is asking. He doesn't know what the table is.
Yeah.
He's asking.
이 딜라 디드 지바레. 페나 디샤세디 조지레 라로. 안 조지 가네드레라나 페나게 라보도 차데요. 저 라베 주디세디. 라베 주디세디 조지레스 레로다. 지바로다. 저나 지바로. 딜레디 땅에 양조 고마체인사 알레 라보 주세디로다. 디 조지레베스 양조 딜레요.
Geshe-la is pretending he doesn't know what the table is. So he's asking, what is the table? You say that on the top of which you put this. Or if he's holding it in his hand, so therefore if you're saying it is that which is I'm holding in my hand, Geshe-la removes this bit and says, is this the table? Because this is what I'm holding in my hand.
Okay. What I'm saying as a table is that all this, what is he holding, like the
collection.
pieces, yeah, the
collection of the
collection,
parts.
and the function of that collection is that holding the cup. So that collection, the unity of that collection is the table.
Okay, let me just
Not-
repeat.
Oh, sorry.
The collection of the parts that performs the function of holding something.
Yes, so that is the function. So the mind is recognizing that the table is serving as a holding something, yeah, but the unity of it, not the part of it.
그런 냉 가르스는 차식이 속과 쪽색이 차와 치누게 솔직히 차식이 촉이
放东西来就这种东西很东西桌子，所以呢，听的人他应该会意识到说，像这样的东西应该叫桌子，他会自己意识到。
其实他第了对在呢，这个当年这个是先用对在呢，第两个中华上，错不的就是的是，如果呢，如果的三档，第错不的大的是，因为两个的用过，他谈到的可以第几个差的。
So before, none of you actually gave that response. If you asked, what is the self? There's also this response of saying it's the collection of all the parts. So she just gave this answer of like the collection of all the parts. That is the table.
同样就是聚合是桌子，那运的聚合是我。刚才在大家回答什么是我的时候，并没有回答到聚合这个概念。
其实真正我这结果因呢，就是语言文的配置约不差住过。
So if you say that, the table actually has to exist from its own side.
因为当我告诉爸爸来的语言文的我之前嘛都不切，语言文的第的足嘛都不切。那当定这几个呢，他就是看的我之前来的嘞。但语言文的我之前的这些呢，大概两个就嘛中子当的来上的这个都，完了第刚把西当他帮的刚来这些，我多啊，确实啊，第错过的就是这个是。 第错过的就是因呢，他等到不能到我这边的地方，那错过的等到来就是这边是，错过的让家有了。就是前女不来的这个了，加瓦的那个了，然后那加瓦的了呗。
Gishna's response is, well, if you say the collection of the parts of it is the table, well, that is a way that this shows that there is no understanding, there's no identification of what the existence from its own side actually means. So in the sense that there's no understanding of that. So Gishna is saying, well, if you say it's the collection of the parts, then if you take these parts apart, like Gishna just did with the table, then that would still be a table. So then I said, well, you said that it performs the function of holding something. It has the ability to hold something. It has that ability. And Geshe was saying, well, the ability is there.
Okay.
第三个来说，就是叫我前女朋友来对其他这个多，叫我前任的就是的是。就是第三个叫我前任的肯定的是，因为就好人家练过了。叫我前任的第二位肯定的是，因为就好人家练过了，叫我前女朋友来的。然后呢，可以女别车，搞是个嘞，女别给车子，苏给这买一包车，第就是的了，那要可能我做到老二是吧？第二买一呢，叫我前女朋友收入的，叫我前女朋友的肯定的是，因为就好人家练过了。
So when we say also with respect to the ability to do something, so first of all there's the collection, and then we say there's the ability to hold an object or perform a function. Then we also have to look again, where can that ability be found? Which of the parts of the table has that ability to perform that function? Is there some kind of separate kind of ability that can be found separate, or a separate kind of ability here, or does each of the parts have this ability to perform a certain function?
As I listened, he said that the object exists through the awareness, power of the awareness. So I go again, the unity of the table is like it functions because of the unity. Now he takes out the legs, it's a broken table. It's still the table, but it's a broken table. It loses the function, but it's still the unity of it. So I don't know.
You're saying the broken table is a table?
Like it loses its functions, but it's still as an object, awareness of awareness of the mind. It still recognizes it as a table. It's just the parts has been like, it's like I cut the hands off, but it's still the body. It's just the hand is not there, but it's still it exists. But I wanted to ask him before when he mentioned that it doesn't exist by its own nature. So I don't actually know what does that mean, like the nature. So I can't really say what is the table by itself, like existing by itself, because I don't know what does that mean, like it exists, the object exists by its own nature. Yeah, so it exists inherently, or, you know, so, yeah.
So condition da karisna chokchi digi hangin gema tombo chokchi yuji zangala da ji kongba shiga da ji karsa ane da samanya numde yugi di chokchi re ta tanda keda kangba de jola ji pa bishana tadong chokchi re 쮸뉴 chokse 아니 차와다다 지도 말이네 chokse sana genso야 디기 로이 원기 샤바 임바 임상 사탄다 딘도 좀 로디 단다 타데요 페나 샤잖아 페나 루이지라 깡바 지나 빠지 똥나 단다 루이 좀 샤바 단다 타데요 손자 단다 라파 메비 루이 단다 루이레스 오디나 chokse 디안 chokse 근데 단다 코 컨디션야 디 카르스나 컨디션 니바 디 카르스나 당인 계실라 소야 디기 유디 장은의 요마레 장신기 요마레스 이네야 장은의 장신기 주발해야지 그디기 내츠야 고츠는도 임진디 챤에 양 디기 매츠야 양 고츠
진짜 쟤네 니만이 호라 아니라 디 세부지 중나 안디 제라 라문의 메시지 메시지 찾는 거
So Geshe-la's response to your second question was, well, because we still, once you understand that something cannot be found upon searching it, or what is found when searching upon it, that's when you will understand the meaning of existing from its own side or intrinsic. So that will come later.
제산다 디 강보 비찬의 조지리레디 다다랑리게 아이 아주 신바지 용거 나를 통과 디 신베 베나 아니 미시찬의 로딜이야 초진의 하고거를 로디 미마이마 수지 빈자마이마 수지 아마마이마 야 초진의 야 아마이미 삼로제레요 아마기 로이나 빈자기 로이나 딜레비 왕기 로딜 창고에 로딜 천왕지 레댕이 신다 파샤니 다 두체르 베차비체레 야 두체르 디체댕이 천왕디 유댕이 다 신다 파샤니 타나 아니 퍼레 ino chona yide di chona gejare ma to pardi amaide lagmaro chesa tiladi ta phage josi sin thani ta one gi di cheba ina di kamba maybe kabla josi maro
So, Geshe-la is arguing with respect to the first part of your question. When you remove the legs of the table, Geshe-la is saying actually it's not correct to say it's a table. We have that kind of incorrect kind of misperception in the sense there's a feeling. There's a feeling that it is still that object. So Geshe-la gave an example of a person when they die. When they're dying, actually you know this is not your mother or relative or someone. When you look at the corpse, there's of course an understanding this is not your relative any longer. However, there's still a feeling this is the relative. So there's this kind of contradiction here to a degree that you may go and want to hold this person, hold the corpse. Or you go to the cemetery, you bury the person in a cemetery, and actually you know the person's not there, but in a sense, in a way, there's a feeling this person really still is there, and so you go to the cemetery again and again. Likewise, a picture, when you have a photograph, you look at a photograph, and there's also a sense this is the person. But really, in actuality, the photograph is not the person, etc. So therefore, we would not say that the table, a legless table, like a table that has no legs, there's a fault in saying really that this is still a table.
다 라바제네 리오레스 디 라거와 다 디임바 차샤르와 저부도 지다시나 다 천 렌데프셔와 다디 데비임바 차샤 데비 저부도 지어라 데브스나 디 데비임바 차샤 디 파키네 데브랑자 요레 데버레 디 파키네 슈지 데브랑자 요레 고도 고우면다 야 저시도 돌아도 아주 고가 차샤르와 디 파키치 데브랑자 요레 데네 요레는 더 가버리잖아 좋아. 다 하나 디파키 남자 요래 디키를 요래 디키를 요래 디키를 요래 다 디차상 키스를 대브라자 요래 내긴데.
Geshe-la is asking you a question. Geshe-la is holding this notepad. So just visualize this to be a book. Visualize it's a book. Now Geshe-la will start removing. He said he will not really remove the pages because they become unglued. He doesn't have to do that. But imagine you take off a page. Is that still a book? Then you take off the next page. Is that still a book? Then you take off another page. Is that still a book? Is there any time when this is no longer a book? So when he takes off the last page, is it still a book or not? When is it not a book again?
When he takes out all the pages, yeah, and then the pages by the sun or it gets burned or whatever, and actually there's nothing left, not even the pages, so then there is no book, isn't it?
What is your answer? What is your answer?
Right. When he tear up all the books, he tear up all
this
of it.
this go. The 참지 여러. 다 모두 키는 대로자도. 뒤로디 빠르지도 슈구지 킨. 뒤 추샤는 대래. 파키는 대마레 레기 여와디 디나는 슈구지 주주도 그래. 뒤로.
So let's say Geshe-la were to take one page and puts it in a different kind of place. He kind of reverses. Is that same a book?
다 슈구디네 다 슈구 주유버잖아. 슈구디나는 다 원이부 수마 가는 소리조네. 슈구디 추샤는 대래. 슈구디 파키는 대마레세. 슈구직 주주도 그래. 디 주주마트나 파키네 대비 파키네 대비. 라자들 다 타마직마도 내내 대비라고 지금.
I'm sorry, so Geshe-la said that if you take out a page, you take out one page. So when take out one page of the typical book, right? So if it stops being a book, the moment you take out that page, well, have you removed the book? Is that the book therefore? So when you remove with each page that you remove, if you decide at some point this is no longer a book, is that page that you've taken out, is that the book? Because if it's no longer a book, you've taken that away.
No, it leaves like it won't be a book if he tear up all the pages. And then
When did it stop being a book? When you tore the first page, the second page, the third page?
No, when you tear up all of them, and then all the pages stop being like changing to another. Let's say we burn it, or all the pages after tearing it, we burn it. So then there is no book for my
So if
mind.
there's only one page left, it's still a book?
Yes.
To you?
Still.
Why?
It is because of my.
다 슈구직도 디제이션이 되게. 지금 맞다 라바나나 라보라.
라바나나던데 슈구 찍마다
맞다
하면
지금 제산다 슈구직 때만 생각나면 들어와. 다 레레니 파키와 차샤. 레레니 파키와 차샤. 대별이.
Do you still have a book? Do you still have a book?
I tear up all this, and I just left the preface of
대별와
this book. Yeah.
대별이 나서 봐라.
열와.
Tira.
대별와.
Yeah.
대 나번난 대뒤.
The-
도와.
我想到现在有书，
대뒤.
把那一张纸撕掉。
대뒤. 대 카드를 쭉 간드르미엘라 에디티 부친 다 제니 마니바 다 제니 녜나 은기지 셰미도 하고 주 유이가나 디레나 다잡스 지어로 다 제니 퀴니 마니비 기지 셰용데 디리베세 마마 트디세 마레스 디마레세 초바드레 마레라 사두잖아 다 우투브로다 단디 카레 랍데나 다 카레 라기르 타마들 다 라야요마 도와 통도 그래서 다 신라야게 요마 다가나 유출되었다. 이제 정신 생기기 뒤통그리다. 우투나 통도 밖에 두었다. 통도 그냥 지기도 안 뒤뒤다. 어딘지 딜라디잖아. 다가나 아니 조금 뭐지 제당디. 조지 tangi 절서디. 들이 된다 가르스나 그걸 낭대야지. 되게 초발에 때는 쪽지 세지 돌지. nangsu mindawa do di nangsu chokzu nangsu mindawa yore ro ani chokpa la ne chokpa nangda mindawa do ani chokpa la laba chanyin sin kujushita mindawa chokzu la laba chanyin sin kujushito chisan di la du lo la chokzu sin chik nangdegi do oda di res chisan ta labdang jin da na lo la chokzu sin nangdegi di chokzu res ta yang shib sabo chena yang di da nangsi ki chima mushewa ani nga la shrozu kowa zundun chena lo la chokzu nangdegi di chokzu res ta tenju lo la di labo saray chena ada chijin di tenji ki nangdegi di ani lo la nawa tsam rebe ngubi nuchi lo yorebe sina ani shine shinju chechi.
So Geshe-la said here, when we say the object, we talk about the table here. So usually there is a sense you have to be able to find the table, but of course in the end we kind of grow desperate about taking the table, say is this the table, is that the table. It's actually impossible to point at something. So the sense that this part is not the table, this part is not the table. The table doesn't exist separately. The table is not the collection of all these parts. So therefore there's a sense of like, what's going on, but there is a table. So in the end, if you put the object over there, you go, well, but there is something there. There is a table. There is a table there. What are you saying? So that is that appearing table that seems to be. It's not each of the parts. It's not the collection, because the collection it would be like if you could touch the table, you would touch all parts. So it's not the collection. There's a sense there's still a table. So that is the table that appears to the mind. That is that table which appears to the mind. So this is what we're talking about here in the Prasangika school. That which is posited by the mind, and like an appearing table, something that appears to the mind. This is what we talk about as being the table here.
Chisanta nang de di isle du ya nawa rangdo de le khoye me ding pena ta ribong gi ras ribong ra le di nam ji chik bi ji che zo de di ribong ga am jo ring bu yor wa an til rabo ta tharing bu ne shire gyu me ni na rabo du sem chu nang ki si ro di gi di ro chisanta ribong ra se la se di kani di re la wa ina ani ribong ko le ya chi rabo de shap de di res le ro an di la na nawa di re bes la na nawa di yubarwa, rimura mebarwa. Chisa nawa rangdoba di remido. Ine nang deye di res, kichi shieshdo, yu kangla zuzu emido. Nang deye di res, nye dachar sen. Nang deye di yubare mebare sen, shini shugu kichi shigurwa. Nang deye di mebare, rimura mebare sen, di labdu. Chisa nawa rangdoba di ema imate. Ine nang deye di sin, ta, dindichi ki tohne ta, wache goye shi, ta, shetab shi yobare.
So when we say here the appearance, something is appearing here, there's no sense to say it appears from its own, or it appears through its own power like that. So when we say, for example, the horns of a rabbit, it's an example of something that doesn't exist. So Geshe-la explained the example by saying that when from afar you see a rabbit, and a rabbit has these long ears that stick out from its head. So sometimes people may confuse those long ears, these elongated ears, as being horns. So these horns of the rabbit actually don't exist, but the appearance of the horns of the rabbit, that exists. Because there's that appearance of these horns, and that we can say is existing. But the horns of the rabbit do not. So the basis for saying horns of the rabbit is that appearance. So here, likewise, with regard to the table, we also have to kind of say is that appearance, in a way, there's no other way around it, but saying it is that appearance here from the point of view of which we talk of a table, of an object.
Tati peki umata ta nyungi su ina ida tona chewa ina kunzo kanyi madila nawa sini ming ta shawa mungbo yori tonyi dila nawa sini ming ta gmari nawa tenche ruwa me ma tang siya chaba tang o tenche ki nawa sini ming ta digi kuwa di ditli ki metro chingi.
So, for those of you who studied Madhyamika, who studied the middle way, for those of you, though you may have noticed that very often the word appearance is used when referring to conventional phenomena, when referring to conventional truth. So this term, for ultimate truth, you don't use the word appearance. You don't say it's a mere appearance, it's an appearing object. But for conventional truth, you use that word. So you use the word, for example, the appearance of dependently arising, or dependent arising, etc.
像讲话跟生活其实就可以互相做些理解。
第几的真的两人听能了，两人听不的能了，听这个。萨当米了说巴尔，那瓦尼刚萨当时，苏哲了说巴尔那位对你确实交白是，今年的是没找到，我们的那瓦多，我的了那位对你多，他看得样的嘞，苏哲了说巴尔那位对你确实交白是，但对些的，到我一个了，真的呢。그 타다 밀로서 나위 돼. 에 수저로서 나위 돼. 타다 밀로서 나위 된디 밀나와디 밀나위 된디 미레스. 디더 바로. 아니 수 나위 된디 수레스. 제상 다 딕지부 많이 버제. 된디 인장 랑원에 매나야 아니 레사게다. 안 지구 용게 요초그레스. 어디 숨어. 제상 다 직담아된 것이 타다 밀로서 나와니 라는 샤나니야 나와 정도벌 고주에 인거도 양나위 되니 남디전에 양 백이 되는 생 데버주버들라 루이 딱좀 기자마 힘버체 데버주버들 고주에 인거도 다 직전에 제일 먼저 강준의 인식을 다디다 제모자오래다 제가 들이 직직을 나와 배제다 지금 나위 된 배제다 강들이야 백이 되는 생들을 고려 기지디에 많이 봐. 나와 정도발로 고려 기지디에 많이 봐. 두스 다쳐야지. 나위 된스. 선디 안에 가사레스. 가사의 생시. 다 빨리 나와 잡기 공부시세요. 배제디 빨리 나와 잡기 기지다 아이. 넘버 찾아들지 매주 따야 되는 상황이 된지기 다 같이 다 수비 있는 재미도 같이 단다들 나의 낭대디. 아니 말에 세지. 사단 밀라 소바 나와니 가사다스.
So in the middling number by Amazon cover, there's a quote that says, celestial beings, humans, and so forth, the appearance of celestial beings and humans and so forth, that is their person. The appearing object of form and sound, etc., those are posited as phenomena. So here Amazon Kappa is basically saying that the appearance of, he makes a difference, he says the appearance of celestial beings and humans, that is the actual human. Whereas in the case of the physical objects, he says the appearing object, which is the appearing object, which is form, sound, etc., that is still phenomenon. So there's a slight difference here in terms of the terminology that is used. But basically, he then says that those phenomena do not, so those phenomena, he could actually also say that those appearing objects, such as celestial beings, humans, etc., he could use both terms in a reverse way. So it doesn't matter whether he says the appearance of those or the appearing object, those are the person or those are the actual phenomena. So this is actually saying that phenomena, they exist, so therefore they only exist as not being existing from their own side. So, and so Amazon Kappa continues saying that because they do not exist from their own side, therefore there's an accumulator of karma, there's an experiencer of karma. So the idea is here, it doesn't mean that the appearance or the appearing object exists truly. So this is not the intent here. It's not saying that, but it's actually saying that the object is just, it refers to that appearance. Therefore, it lacks that intrinsic existence. It doesn't exist by way of its own characteristic because we just refer to that appearance. So this aspect of appearance illustrates that. So therefore, also this seems to be in accordance with Chandrakirti, what he's saying, that here the appearance of that self, that is what we talk about when we say the self.
That's true. That's true.
So Chandrakirti says that what we talk about as the self, that's what we identify as being the self, that appearance.
其实那个我就是一个形象，就是那个显现出来是我的，那个才是我。这样子的我，应该就是那个洛杉矶市他想要谈的那个我的那个。
第二呀，我们带的因素呢，极地密播性的明导了，极地的密播的可能是呢，我的第二的在怎么都碰不到就是极地密播下个嘛的是，不能到这位。
So Chandrakirti says the focal object of the view of the transitory connection is that appearance. It is that appearance of the self. It is none of the aggregates.
其实大段切是立当可惜主要边当中呢，但是大赛的明大赛的肯定的嘞是呢切的了，大段切这些呢，这大段切你也不怎么着的，那的嘞是那边多，但然呢，但明大赛的语义定呢。语义定理有在也有嘛的是，大段在里面你语义定理也有嘛的嘛头，大赛的看的是呢也多能得的话是。
So when you